thing that not everybody does, or that's a little bit countercultural. Either you are going to do what everybody does and look like what everybody does, and watch the same things on TV, and if you want to do that, fine. And that's another thing. I'm too old to care. And you weren't supposed to say, you told me that I wasn't supposed to call myself grandpa. I wasn't supposed to.
I didn't say that. All I said was you were too old to care. I never said anything derogatory or today.
Well, no, but part of it in a positive way is, at this point in my life, I am too old to. Life is too short, you know, to be doing things just because other people want you to do them. I don't do anything that anybody considers illegal or immoral. That maybe, whatever. I don't do much of anything at all. The one thing that I just prefer to be barefoot. That's me. It doesn't harm anybody else.
My daughters are already feels their shoes too.
It doesn't harm anybody else, does it? You know, so that's where you've got to be with it. You've got to think, whatever you're going to do in life. You know, some people wouldn't even want to be seen running out of their front yard or running down the street. And another big thing that's always been, for me, I'm just being personal about this, and this relates to an earlier part of my life, not now. We're afraid, all of us, I think, or most of us, to be seen having changed who we are. Or being seen to be having changed what we do. You know, if and that depends on our daily habits. If we're known as one thing, we don't want to answer to being something else. The hardest thing for any of us who go barefoot all the time is dealing with people who knew us before we did that. Because we're always thinking to ourselves that, wow, what are they going to think? Don't think of you. They have their own problems. They have their own lives that they're thinking about. They have their own worries. They don't care about your feet. No, they don't.
Richard, could I address the urban barefooting? Because I am a hardcore urban barefooter.
Well, then you have probably learned not to abrade. I never got that down. I stepped straight down. I walk well enough. I step well enough that I'm not going to, you know, run over a rock and injure myself. And that there aren't any, you know, things on the ground that are going to injure me. I know well enough to step straight down. But there's some movement. And the real urban barefooter, this is the guy like on the old Kung Fu movie who could walk on the rice paper and not tear it, because there isn't any movement. There isn't any twisting. There isn't any sliding. His foot goes right down on the pavement. He picks it right back up again, and you know, there isn't any of this.
That's very hard to do.
It is
How do you
very
manage?
hard to do, but if he's an urban barefooter, he's learned the technique.
Excuse me, Mr. Proprietor, what's your first name?
Glenn.
Glenn is a barefoot runner, so it's kind of like the same thing. So when you're up on the balls of your feet, it's one thing. So you're very soft, cat-like. But when you're walking, doing urban walking, you just keep your gait in really, really close. So you're not stretching, you're not heel stretching, though you're landing flat. So when you're landing flat, you're able to adjust, because I walk through litter, glass, rocks, stones, anything. In front of me, I'm going through it. Now, when you watch tell me your name.
Dave, sorry.
When you watch Dave
The
walking,
litter and the glass and the stones are not going to be are much easier to deal with than the fact that concrete is abrasive. I mean,
You're actually better off on like pebble ground.
yeah, pebbles, you can walk, if you're walking on gravel, your feet will not be as abraded walking on gravel as they will walking on concrete. Sand, gravel, almost anything. When you're walking on a surface that has embedded abrasives, those abrasives can't move, even if they're fine sand and concrete. You're walking on a surface that has embedded abrasive. Long term, that's the hardest thing to deal with, because you've got that. It's not going anywhere. The grains of sand in that concrete aren't going anywhere at all. It's not like they're in mud. They're there. And when you get to the point of being able to walk on that without any twisting, so you can walk on it all day and you're not getting any abrasion, that's a threshold. It's a skill. It's a knack. I don't know what the proper term.
when Dave and I walk hiking, Dave has a very interesting gait. He's able to just, in a cat-like manner, just foot forward, grasp for spaces. And I try to explain to Dave, because I look at the way you walk, you look at the way I walk, and when I'm walking on like Hamilton Park and Waterbury, which is like, the motto is leave no glass bottle unbroken. I'm trucking through. I speed walk. So I have to land flat because I need to be able to adjust. So I'm either going up on a toe and coming back to the side and hitting my heel, but I have to get through that situation. So when I hit sharp, so that's where I keep my gait really close and it comes straight down. And when you come straight down, you can feel the sharpness and you can adjust away from it. And when very
you can adjust a step. It's your
so you bring your gait in as close as you can. So you're not flat footing them, you're really pretty close. And you can move out.
Oh, so you can say, okay.
Fine immobile abrasive is the hardest to deal with.
But over the summer, I was doing a minimum of 5 miles a day, city streets.
But the worst thing that I found in terms of discomfort.
Everybody's got different techniques. I think that's it. He's got a different technique. One of my techniques, I got into barefooting because of my knees were hurting me. And I definitely wanted to get the shock absorbing ability of the front of the foot. So you get all the nice bones and muscles and ligaments at the front of the foot. So I definitely tried, in his book, to make sure I do a ball of foot strike first to absorb that pressure, especially when going downhill. That's when I killed my knees one time on a big hike. Because you're going downhill, and if you're in boots, you're doing heel strike all the time going downhill. There's nothing else you can do because you can't move your foot. And my knees were taking all pounding and they just were dead. They were dead.
Downhill takes a lot more care,
but
it's easier. But you can get it's easier to do. It's easier to go so fatigue headless. Easier to trip off with a ball.
All the injuries are hiking, whether you're shod or barefoot, they're all downhill injuries. So I tell everybody that. But I can even going downhill, I can get my foot really extended, so I can land ball of foot first, and that has helped my knees tremendously. And that's really how I got into my whole barefoot hiking, was to save my knees. And I first discovered that I enjoyed it so much more than any other way. But anyway, that's still.
I know.